I mean, we've got battle ready guys who were going to get divorced, and now they're in the best relationship they've ever had with their wife because they repaired themselves first. Every decision you make is a choice. It's a good or a bad choice. And once you start making more good choices and you stack more wins, like that shit bleeds into everywhere else. So the discipline that you learn in the gym, in your nutrition and everything else that you do here with us in the Battle Ready program, it starts showing up in other areas of your life as well. Yo, what's happening, guys? Welcome to the Battle Ready Show, where we link up your fitness and your personal development and put it under one umbrella. I'm here today with my good friend, Leighton.
What's going on, my man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. How you feeling today?
It's the first YouTube show, so a little nervous. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's all good. I'm telling you, repetition, just like anything in the gym, it's going to come naturally after a while.
Run it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. What are we talking about today?
So today I thought we would touch on like a little bit of a personal journey, how we got to where we are today. A little bit more about Battle Ready as well, but more in line of like who Byron is and why he came into the Battle Ready scene. I thought that would be a good starting point anyway.
100%. So that's funny you say that, because that's literally what I wanted to talk about, because even though I know you and we get closer just, as time goes on, I feel like I don't know a lot about you. I hear little things about this, and I'm not going to give it away. I want you to tell it.
Sure.
But I hear little bits and pieces of your story, and I think it's really interesting. I think people want to know. Like, first of all, you hear the accent. It's like, where's this dude from?
Little mysterious.
Yeah, exactly. Where did he come from? You know what I'm saying? So we want to dig deep on your story, man. So I want to learn a little bit more about your personal story, but also how does that relate to your fitness? Like,
Sure.
But basically, what have you went through, and how has it helped you become kind of this figure, in the fitness industry now?
Okay. I mean, so initially I kind of got into the fitness space because I was a sports person. I got paid to play sport from a young age, which was pretty cool.
What sport?
Cricket.
Okay.
So I got paid to play cricket. It's a sport in South Africa. It's also played in like the UK and a lot of other countries. But long story short, started failing fitness tests because I was a fat kid. I was very talented, but I was very unfit and unhealthy. So I started failing fitness tests, which meant that I couldn't play on the teams that I wanted to represent. So I kind of got forced into fitness. Kicking and screaming, didn't really enjoy the process initially, but then kind of got I guess you could say I got bitten by the bug a little bit, because I liked the way that my body started responding. I liked the way I looked in the mirror. I liked the confidence that came with it. But then over and above that, like all of a sudden, when I started focusing on my fitness, my sport just went like from here to there. And it was like a completely different game. So I liked that. But then with that came a lot of arrogance. Fractured my back twice in 2 places. And
What age was that?
that was about 21, 22 years old.
Holy smokes.
So doctors, the first time I fractured it, the doctor's like, hey man, time out. You need about 6 to 8 weeks, rest, recover, fix yourself. I said, bro, you got 6 days. He kind of laughed me out the room. The following week, went back into the sports field and fractured it the other way. So now I've got this beautiful Y-shaped fracture at the base of my spine. Went back to the doctor because after the game, I was literally lying on the bench and the guys were like, yo, let's go. I was like, I can't move. I was like struggling, breathing and everything. And went to see the doc and he's like, yep, now you fractured it twice in 2 places. Good job. If you do that again, you probably won't walk. So I was like, shit. Okay. So now fitness all of a sudden became like this thing that I couldn't do, and I couldn't play sport either. And I had no money management skills. So all the money I earned, I just spent, and now we're up shit creek. So it was like, what now?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I told you this a while back, got on Google and just searched like highest paying jobs in London.
Yeah.
And financial consulting came up. I was like, cool, I'm going to do that. And had no idea how to do it. So I did a little bit more research, reverse engineered the process, needed numerous degrees. I had no degrees. I had no money. So one part I forgot to tell you was that I had to work in a kill house for a while. Or what do you guys call
I didn't know
an
that.
abattoir?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I worked in an abattoir where I was killing birds, and I was very good at it. Like I was able to detach like life from death and just killed like a shit ton of birds because there was a mission at hand, right? So I was just mission focused and killed a fuck ton of birds, made a bunch of money, used that money to buy a plane ticket to come to the US to drive trucks for a little while.
Yeah.
Used that money to pay for my degree in full because I couldn't get a student loan. Slept in a car for a while, worked at a courier office.
Wait, hold on. Slow down. Let's talk about, this is crazy. I just told you right now, like, even though I know you, we talk all the time, whatever, I still didn't know a lot of the stuff. Dude, I didn't know you worked in a kill house before. I didn't know you, like, bro, all right, we just got to slow down for a second. All right, man.
Okay,
So, all right, so let's say, okay, afterwards, you said that first of all, what was the motivation to want to come to America anyways? Like, let's start there. Like, why here? Like, what was out here that you were like, you know what, I got to go there to do this?
Couple things. I watched TV and I was like, America looks dope. So I wanted to come and see what you guys were doing. But over and above that, a good friend of mine came out here and drove trucks, and he made a lot of money doing it. So he was like, dude, you could go to America, drive some trucks, you could squirrel away a bunch of money and then use that money. I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. I know how to drive. So let's do it. So bought a plane ticket, came out here, drove some trucks for 9 or 10 months.
Okay.
Put a bunch of money in the back pocket, and then went back to the UK and started studying. But I didn't realize how expensive London was. So very quickly was on the bones of my ass and being forced not to eat, sleeping in a car, all that good shit.
So that happened after you came. Okay, all right, so that makes sense. After you came back, and this is when you were going to be a financial consultant, right? So this was
part of the process to get there. So I needed to get a bunch of money first, but I didn't have any skills other than sport.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, what pays well where you don't really need a lot of skill? You're driving anyway, so you can drive. As long as you can pass a driving test, you can drive in America.
Right.
So it's like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Yeah. So what part from you sleeping in the car and studying and working as a financial consultant, like where did fitness get tied into that as far as your story goes?
So I got a gym membership because obviously I needed somewhere to shower and get clean and stuff. So I could get a gym membership for $9.99 a month. And the gym was open 24 hours. So I would go to the gym just to shower. And then sometimes it was a nice place to nap as well because it was safe. Like you could just sleep in the locker room.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. But then it got to a point where I was like, dude, I'm already here. I might as well do what I can. Now, bearing in mind that the doctor in the back of my head was saying like, oh, if you can't exercise, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But I've already got this thing about doctors, and I can't remember if I told you this, but at 9 years old, I had kidney failure and I was in ICU for 10 days because the doctor said to my mom that I was faking it and that I just didn't want to go to school. But it turns out I was literally about to have like cardiac arrest and have a stroke because my toxicity level in my blood was so high. So she took me to a pediatrician. I was literally pissing blood and I was yellow. And he's like, you need to get him to hospital right now. He's like about to have a stroke.
Yeah.
My blood pressure.
Like now it's serious, right? Yeah. I wasn't faking it.
Hey man, like I'm really fucked up.
Oh,
Pretty big deal. So anyway, fast forward a bunch of years and I'm now like in the back of my head, I'm like, well, if that doctor was a fucking idiot, what if this doctor was an idiot as well? So it's like, well, let's just figure out what we can do. So school of YouTube, like learning stuff about strengthening my lower back. And then over and above that, I was like, okay, well, I can do like leg extensions. That doesn't hurt my back. So why don't I just train leg extensions? And then I can do leg curls and I can do this and that and the other. So we just started like learning the process, what hurts and what doesn't hurt. Do more of the stuff that doesn't hurt and less of the stuff that does hurt and build some strength. And because I was already in the gym to shower, I was like, well, let's just work out. So it just became part of who I was again. And then I started feeling more alive. Like when I was not training, I literally had no purpose. I was lost, confused, scared. I was just getting fatter. And like the fatter I got, the more I got overlooked. And like the less people respected me and I felt like I didn't belong. And it was just this vicious cycle of just like mental fuckery. It's like, okay, you can complain and bitch about it or you can figure something out.
Yeah, so I like that you touched on that right now when you said how working out actually made you feel, because I wanted to ask you that.
Sure.
Maybe dig a little bit deeper in a second. But I want to know when it comes to like, because you're working as a financial consultant at this point, right?
Not yet. So I'm still working at the courier company, driving a car.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but eventually you were, right? Like you got the degrees. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you accomplished it and you did it for a while.
Yes, sir.
How did that, like what changed to where now you're in the fitness industry and now you like left that behind and you said, you know what, this is going to be the new path that I choose to take. Like take us on that path a little bit. Like what was the disconnect when it came to that industry and then coming over here now?
Sure. So, I mean, I got into the financial consulting space for all the wrong reasons. It was something that just paid a lot of money. And my goal was to take as much money out of your pocket and put it in my pocket as I could. If I could do that, banks would hire me because now I can take money out of your pocket and put it in their pocket, and then they pay me a commission or whatever. So it's like, okay, cool. I got very good at that. I was very proficient when it comes to like system design, process design, all that stuff. So I didn't really like who I was becoming, and I didn't really like what the entire space represented. I've got this thing, and I can't remember again if I've mentioned this to you before, but like I had this realization that like the 7-year-old me has to be proud of the guy I am. Like if he's not happy about who I'm growing up to be, what's the point? And when I thought back, I was like, dude, the 7-year-old me wouldn't be excited about basically just extracting a bunch of money from everyone that I can and self-serving rather than like helping other people.
Right.
Like my life didn't make anyone else's life better. Your life was worse off because I was so good at my job. Like that's not a good way to live. I didn't feel like I was adding value. I didn't feel like I had a purpose or a reason to be here. And in all honesty, I felt like if I kicked the buckets, the world would be a better place without me. And that was a pretty big realization to have. So I was like, fuck. So long story short, came out here and I did the project because I was morbidly obese. I was like nearly 300 pounds and miserable again. Not really focused on the fitness. I was more worried about making a shit ton of money. And business was good. I was good at what I did. But lost, confused, overlooked, all that shit again. So it was a case of, okay, what are we going to do about it? Get healthier, fitter, stronger. And I set a goal at the beginning of 2019. I want to be in the best mental and physical shape of my life. And you can obviously measure physical because it's like you just look at the man in the mirror and you're like, I like what I see or I don't. Right. Am I losing weight or am I gaining weight? You know, simple stuff. But how do you test your your mental strength? I was like, okay, cool. So I listened to B on a podcast with Andy Frisella. I was part of Orate at the time. So I was like, I really like this guy. Like his story and my story were pretty similar. Foreigner, back against the wall, like stopping and starting over and over again, like
for sure.
Imposter syndrome, overcoming it and then getting hit with it again and overcoming it and self-sabotaging and all that same shit. Like being there, done that, got the t-shirt. So listened to that podcast and I was like, I like this guy. And for a while, I didn't see any of his content. I don't know if the algorithm just kind of screwed it up or whatever. But then one day I just got to the end of all my stories and I saw his story about the MDK project. And I was like, I have to do that. So I DM'd him. And like a couple of weeks later or a month later, I came out here, did the project and decided at that very graduation dinner that I was shutting down my financial consulting business and I was moving to California. And everyone kind of thought I was crazy. I did too, to be fair. But the next day I phoned my accountant. I said, shut it down. I'm done. I'm moving to California. He's like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. I had a little bit of a nest egg, like probably about just over 100 grand. So it's like I could last at least a year. So I have a year to figure out what the fuck to do next. But I know it's not going to be finance because I'm not adding value. So came out here, long story short, fell into this ecosystem, ran a gym for B for a while, really liked that. Like I could literally see people change. They would walk into the build, like you would see them turn up outside the building and they would be like depressed and sad and anxious and all the shit and carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. But by the time they finished in my session, they would walk out like they were a god amongst men. Right. And I was like, I like that. I like doing that for people.
I want to ask you this though, man. I don't want to cut you. I want to ask you this though. There's a pattern that I'm noticing when you're speaking, and there's a couple different things I think you know, but there's a pattern of that what you were doing before, like career-wise, you didn't feel like you were adding value. You didn't feel like you said you felt like the world might be a better place had you not been here. All these different things, value. But then now, where you're at now, you feel like you're adding value. You can see it. It's like a visual thing. I can see these guys changing. You know, they're gaining their confidence. They're just, you know, all these different things, right? So I want to talk about that a little bit because that's a big thing for a lot of people, man. Like, you know, men and women are like, they obviously fitness is going to help them on different levels. But obviously we're talking specifically with men because that's usually, you know, who you work with. So how important is that for a man to work out for those reasons? Like to, you know, just to feel good about himself, to feel stronger, to be a better leader. Like, you know, I almost want to ask you, does it feel like you helping these other people create, confidence and help them in that way? Does it feel like it's like healing yourself in a sense?
100%. Coming from the finance space, where I did a lot of like what I would call bad, being able to come into this space and have guys become better versions of themselves, better husbands, fathers, men in general. We've got battle ready guys who were going to get divorced, and now they're in the best relationship they've ever had with their wife because they repaired themselves first. And everyone's so quick to look outward, oh, it's their fault, it's his fault, it's that person's fault. Bro, you are 100% in control of everything. Every decision you make is a choice. It's a good or a bad choice. And once you start making more good choices and you stack more wins, that shit bleeds into everywhere else. So the discipline that you learn in the gym, in your nutrition and everything else that you do here with us in the Battle Ready program, it starts showing up in other areas of your life as well. And all of a sudden, you have more respect for yourself. I can't respect you if I can't respect myself. So the more I can respect me, the more I can respect you. And that's pretty much all we're doing here, is we're just getting men to recognize that they are their own problem, and that if they solve their problem, that everything around them becomes a whole lot better and a whole lot more interesting. And they actually wake up in the morning with a purpose and feel like they belong, and they stop getting overlooked. Because I think one of the biggest issues that most people run into is the fact that they don't feel respected, they don't feel like they belong, they don't feel like, similar to me, I honestly thought that at one point, I was living in a penthouse suite in London, right? Nice place, and I would stand on the edge of the balcony and look down and be like, I could do a couple backflips and frog splash the floor and no one would give a fuck. My mom and dad would cry, my sister would probably cry. Who else would give a shit? Probably the people that I kept paying lunch for and the guys who I take out to dinner all the time, my friends. But no one else would give a fuck. And in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, everyone goes back to normal. Yeah, my parents will still mourn me, but no one else would give a shit. The bank would replace me this quick. What's the point?
Yeah.
Versus now, I truly believe that the impact that I've had on the guys' lives in Battle Ready and what we're doing here, if I died tomorrow, I'm pretty sure there would at least be 100 people who'd be like, holy fuck, that was a big loss.
For sure.
We liked the dude.
For sure. It's a completely different ballgame now. Yeah. I don't know if Bedros was the first person I heard say it, but he's the one that always comes to my mind when I think about it, when people say about, adding value is the best part of the human experience, man. Just adding value to people and helping them and donating to charities and just, being a good person in that regards. Obviously having the nice things for yourself and your family is awesome. And you obviously want to provide for them as well. Sure. But man, it's everything that you're saying. It rings true when I think of that, because you're just trying to bring value, man. Trying to help people out. And this is what's helped you. And now you're paying it forward and helping them as well. So, when it comes to Battle Ready specifically, when you're working with these guys, how much of a driving force of getting to see their transformation is actual motivation for you to keep doing this in the first place?
It's all of it. Because there's a direct correlation between the amount of energy I invest in these guys and the results that they get. If I'm prepared to go above and beyond and not only coach you through the process, but actually live the qualities that I'm telling you to live, and you see me do it every day. When I say to the guys, hey man, you got to be at the gym and do this, that, and the other, but then I'm not at the gym or they never see me there, it's well, he's sitting in his ivory tower just shouting demands down. That's not leadership. We know this. It's easy to sit in the background and just be do this, do this, do this, do this. It's that's pussy shit. Actually being front and center and doing the work and showing them that, hey man, we just had that photo shoot. I was 255 pounds because I was bulking, and then I went down to 220 for that photo shoot. And the guys are holy fuck. If that's what he can do in 90 days, and it wasn't even 90 days to be fair, I decided about 75 days out to do it. In 75 days, if he can do that, what the fuck can I do? Even if they got half the results that I could get, that's still massive. That's better than 90% of the people who go to the gym every day. I go to the same gym every morning, I see the same fucking guys, and they do the same workout every day, and they've looked the same for the last 8 months.
Yeah.
Because they just tick a box. Oh, I went to the gym today. Tick. Being that guy. I was that guy while I was financial consulting. When I was 300 pounds, I worked out every day.
Right.
But that workout bought me the entitlement of eating like a fucking dick all afternoon. And I would eat all the cakes, all the pizza, all the ice cream. And then I'd go out and I'd get drunk as fuck. And then I'd eat more bad food. And it was just this perpetual cycle because I was escaping reality. I hated who I was. I hated who I was doing. and it was just, get me the fuck out of here. But I didn't have the balls to get out because it paid good. I was in a loveless relationship. Like all of the fucking things. It's like at some point you just got to say, I'm tired, man. I can't do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
So do you eat a bullet or do you do something?
Right.
Do something.
Right. And I know from first-hand experience, being about already, that accountability is a huge aspect of it. And it kind of, what you said right now, is just all I heard was accountability. It's accountability. Practice what you preach. Just because you're the coach, you're not going to slack and be like, well, I'm just going to point my finger, hey, do this. Hey, your form looks out, whatever. No, I'm doing it. I'm going to show you how to do it. And you just watch. So you're basically, you've become the person, and then that's the best way to go about it. 'Cause in my opinion, anyways, because I see a lot of trainers who are probably not in the best shape. They could make a lot of changes, and I'm like, dang, bro, you're gonna be teaching them? Like, I don't know. Like, but you obviously are not doing that. Like, you want to be the person in the shoes, in the trenches with them, showing them how to do it, and having the body and the lifestyle, like you said, the relationships. It's not just the gym.
Right.
It's everything. It's your marriage, like your kids, like everything, man. I think that's a beautiful thing. And fitness, it's cool to hear your story and learn more about it. And that fitness kind of was the spark or the catalyst to help better all these other different areas. And you're seeing with the guys too.
Yeah. And I mean, also to be fair, like a lot of it stemmed from childhood and being bullied and stuff like that. And you're like, I don't want to be that guy anymore either. So like now my motivation is slightly different in terms of, I want to be in the best shape of my life, but I also want to look like someone that you wouldn't want to fuck with. Hence the tattoos. Like it's all a persona, like you're peacocking, right? So it's like, I want to be that guy that people look at and go, okay, like I bet he doesn't get bullied. I want to be like him. Because that's exactly what I did. I just modeled someone who I was like, I bet he doesn't get bullied because he looks like he's a fucking tank.
Right.
I wouldn't fuck with him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to become like that guy because then no one will fuck with me. Yeah. It's all like trauma at the end of the day. I think you said that to me the other day as well.
Well, dude,
like,
this is the thing, man.
Trauma.
Yeah, but the honesty, though, the people are not saying that. They're not admitting what you just admitted right now. Sure. I don't know if you don't think it's a big deal. It's a big deal, though, because the honesty is so real. Like you're just... it maybe started off as a persona, but this is really who you are now. Like it's not an act. Like it's really who you are. You really live this life. You really go to the gym at like 2 a.m. or whenever you go. Every time I wake up, and man, whenever it is, bro, it's early because like I look at your stories and I'm up at like early, what I think, and then you posted the story like 6 hours ago. I'm like, dude, he's been like, so I'm like, yo, you're really doing it, man. And it's really cool to see, man. But I want to ask you, this is the last thing I want to ask you, because earlier you had said that you wanted to be a role model to your younger self at a certain point. So now, what you're doing now, like, where would you rate yourself as far as living the lifestyle that you want to live, like as far as goals wise?
I mean, in terms of like the way I show up, I think he would be very proud. He'd be very impressed. Obviously, in terms of like overall success, I still measure success slightly differently because I'm still in that like that older mindset of like, I don't drive the supercars anymore. I don't have the penthouse suites. I don't have the fucking virtual golf in my apartment. So like that to me used to be success. That's
and those
what
things were things that you had too.
Right.
It's okay.
So it was like that was success to me. Whereas now I don't have that, but I've got a different level of success that I would have never been able to achieve or even maintain as Byron 1.0, who was driving the supercars and stuff. So it's like now I'm married. I have 2 kids. Like I would literally give the shirt off my back for my wife and my kids. I would, like, people do this all the time. They're like, I would take a bullet for my family. Dude, I would literally dive on a fucking sword for them. Quite happily, no questions asked. Byron 1.0, he didn't give a fuck about anyone else. It was about how much money can I make, how quickly can I make it, and how can I serve myself best. And that's why he was a miserable prick. Like, he wasn't enjoyable to be around because it was just, I'm going to take everything from all of you fuckers as much as I can because it was such a scarcity mindset thing. So in terms of like overall success, I would say I could definitely be on another level. But at the same time, in fairness, if I wanted a supercar, I could probably afford it. But I invest so much more into my family and my house and stuff now. So it's like,
different now.
Yeah. I mean, you can finance anything, dude. Like, you could buy a supercar and finance it for 10 years if you want to be that stupid. Like, I understand money now. I worked in finance long enough. Yeah. I measure success slightly differently. Like, if my wife is happy, my kids are happy, they have a roof over their head, they never struggle for fucking anything. Now, I I make my kids struggle on a daily basis, but it's controlled environment struggle. Not like where I had to literally fast 4 days a week because I couldn't afford to fucking eat. And I could only afford 5 meals a week. So it was like, okay, cool, I'm going to eat on a Monday and a Tuesday.
What we're doing.
And then we're figuring it out, right?
Exactly.
So like I create adversity for them versus adversity was just fucking jammed down my throat for so long. But it builds character. So I do the same thing. But yeah, I would say that 7-year-old me would be extremely proud and happy.
Good, man, good. Well, I appreciate you having me on, man. And this was just as much of a treat for me as people watching to learn a little bit more about you, learn a little bit more about why you're so angry on IG. I'm like, dude, it's because you guys need to freaking take your fitness seriously, take your life seriously, your marriage seriously, all of that, man. And so I understand a little bit more about you, man, a little bit more and more. So yeah, we got to do a part 2 of this for sure one day.
I agree.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, it's like it's all excuses, which is what drives me so mad. Because at some point, if you actually decided what you wanted and you just hyper-focused in on that, the only person in your way is you. So it's the narrative that you tell yourself. It's the story you tell yourself. Once you get that all out the way, dude, if a kid that was literally a foreigner in the UK, he wasn't allowed a bank account, couldn't get a student loan, somehow figured out how to make a connection to make a bank account where it was completely illegal. There's no way I should have had a bank account. Somehow figured that shit out and then found a gym and managed to buy a car and got a degree and another degree and another degree. Like, shut the fuck up with your excuses, man, for real. Like, I can't. I'm like, fuck you. You just don't want it. Like, you're not hungry. You've never been hungry. You've never suffered. You've never wanted for anything. So you just chill. And you just sit out with your hands and you go, feed me. Fuck you. Feed yourself.
Exactly. I love it. That's a clip in itself, man. I love it. I love it, man. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it. This is a good opportunity. And I'm excited to just all the episodes to come. Big things on the way.
Thanks for joining us. See you guys next week.